Technical issues. No, I want it back. I didn't take a little from my cup to your cup. Technical issues mean you can't allow to speak. Tonish rain. Here's cups. But I want my cup back. Rabbi says, ich will chazen a shtickl wort, if you don't mind. Our Rebbe, the Rebbe is all gesund sein, our Rebbe is the first chassid of the previous Rebbe, the number one chassid of the Friedrich Rebbe. So his whole koch, his whole passion, his whole priority, his whole emes is the previous Rebbe, is the Rebbe the Shver, the Friedrich Rebbe, the previous Rebbe. The Rebbe said once, the Rebbe told somebody, Bamir is hecher van Shver nito. As far as I'm concerned, this Yiddish, as far as I'm concerned, higher than the previous Rebbe is nothing. Bamir is hecher van Shver nito. The Rebbe is so dedicated, so connected to the previous Rebbe. It's Inyan Pnimi. I mean, we understand this kashrus very little. Bechlalis kashrus, especially is kashrus my Rebbe and a Rebbe. It's the deepest connection of a neshama and a neshama. But we have symptoms. In other words, what kind of connection was there between the previous Rebbe and the Rebbe? What kind of connection is there between the previous Rebbe and the Rebbe? We have no idea. But we see the hanhage, the behavior of the Rebbe. And one of the things that we know about our Rebbe's behavior is that he obviously, in everything that he did, he follows the leadership, the direction, the initiative of the Rebbe Rayatz, of the previous Rebbe. But you also see it in his Torah, in the Rebbe's Maimorim, the Rebbe's Torah. Over the course of the Rebbe's Nesias, over the years the Rebbe was Rebbe, the Rebbe is Rebbe, he said a lot of Chassidus, a lot of Maimorim. And when you look at those Maimorim that the Rebbe said, you see that he studies the Maimorim of his father-in-law a lot. And he studies the Maimorim of his father-in-law not only a lot, but repeatedly, again and again and again. So there are many times. There are certain Maimorim of the previous Rebbe that the Rebbe studied many times. Obviously, the Maimer that he studied more than any other is the Maimer Basi Lagani. Every year Basi Lagani, the Rebbe said Basi Lagani. The Rebbe probably said 50 Maimorim Basi Lagani based on the previous Rebbe's Basi Lagani. But there are other Maimorim that the Rebbe would repeat again and again. Amongst the Maimorim that our Rebbe would repeat from the previous Rebbe are two distinct groups. Was an Ibiyachazet Merer that he said multiple times. The first is the Maimorim of Chasaneh. When our Rebbe got married, the previous Rebbe said 6 Maimorim in a week. 6 Maimorim in a week. Those 6 Maimorim the Rebbe studied 30 times. Some Maimorim more, some Maimorim less, but over the course of the Rebbe's Nesias, they repeated the same Maimorim again and again, each time obviously in a different way. And another group of Maimorim that our Rebbe was very into was the Maimorim of Yud Tammuz. The Maimorim that the previous Rebbe said in Beis Tammuz, our Rebbe repeated many times, especially the Maimorim from the year Pei Zayin, the year the previous Rebbe was arrested and liberated. So he was liberated on a Tuesday. Yud Beis Tammuz was Tuesday, Yud Gimel Tammuz was Wednesday, and Tezvav Tammuz was Friday. Between Tuesday and Shabbos, he said at least 4 times Chassidus. There's 2 Maimorim, Baruch HaGoyim El Hayovim Tevis. There's a Maimer. How does it start? Hashem liba oizroi v'aniyere b'soynai. Thank you very much. And there's also a Maimer Uyedechem Kodesh Baruch Havaya. The Rebbe said, the Friedrich Rebbe said 4 Maimorim or 5 Maimorim in a few days, and the Rebbe repeated these Maimorim many times. But there's a very unusual Maimer Rabbi Isai that I happened to learn this year. So because I learned it, you have to hear about it. That's how this works. Since I happen to be learning it, I am learning now Maimorim of the Rebbe from 50 years ago, from 1974, from Tafshin Lamed Aleph. And there's 2 Maimorim that are based on this same Maimer. And that is an unbelievable thing. The Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, said a Maimer Chasidus while in jail. I don't know who he said it to. He had 3 cellmates. I think one of them was a Jew, but he wasn't exactly a Chassidish Yid. But in jail, the previous Rebbe said a Maimer. The previous Rebbe left the jail, if you know the history, on Gimel Tammuz, which was a Sunday. And he went off to his Mikla, to his exile, which was supposed to be for 3 years, on that Sunday, Gimel Tammuz. 9 days later, the 3 years ended. You understand? 9 days later, Yud Beis Tammuz, they told him he could go home. The next day, Yud Gimel Tammuz, he was told officially he could go home. And he got home on Friday, Tezvav Tammuz. So in other words, the 3 years of exile ended up being 9 days or so. But on Thursday, Lamed Sivan, Rosh Chodesh Tammuz, the first day, the Frierdiker Rebbe said a Maimer in jail. And he wrote it down. I don't know if he wrote it down in jail. I don't even get paper. But he wrote the Maimer down, and the Maimer was published by the Rebbe. And the Maimer begins Min HaMeitzar. Min HaMeitzar Kerosi Koh. That's how the Maimer starts. Shkoyach, thank you very much, sir. What is your name? Besides Sarah Mashkim. The Rebbe said a Maimer Chsidus Min HaMeitzar. Now we have a lot of Maimonim in HaMeitzar that are connected to Rosh Hashanah. Because Rosh Hashanah you have Min HaMeitzar, yeah. But the Pasuk Min HaMeitzar has 2 parts. Min HaMeitzar Kerosi Koh, Ononi B'merchav Koh. Right? Min HaMeitzar means from the deep, from the narrowness, from the pain, you call out to the Eibishter. And Ononi B'merchav Yah means that when you call out from a place of great pain, the Eibishter answers you from a very high level of great depth. But this Maimer, there's salt here by the way, this Maimer, which the Rebbe said in jail, starts Min HaMeitzar Kerosi Koh and doesn't have the second half. The Maimer begins Min HaMeitzar Kerosi Koh, the Ononi B'merchav Koh is missing. And we have the Maimer. And you could look at it, you could read it, you can learn it. And the Maimer describes his pain. The previous Rebbe describes the pain of sitting in jail and being surrounded by enemies who are trying to destroy him, and how he's calling out to the Eibishter from Min HaMeitzar. So the previous Rebbe said this Maimer and wrote this Maimer 97 years ago. 50 years ago, the Rebbe said 2 Maimorim. Neither of them begin Min HaMeitzar. One of them begins V'hini Parach Mati Adam's Maimer Pashas Koirach, and the second one is a Yud Beis Tammuz Maimer. It begins Hasom Nafsheinu B'chaim V'nosam Ameit Ragleinu. But in both of these Maimorim, the middle of the Maimer is about Min HaMeitzar. So I want to share a word Chassidus. It's a Farbrengen. If I bring in the minute you say Torah, everybody falls asleep. So now is the time for your nap. You understand? It's not going to take too long, but if you need to doze off, do it now. I don't want to say it's the boring part of the Farbrengen, but I'm not. I want for a few minutes. I want to share with you a thought that the Frierdiker Rebbe wrote while sitting in the Shpalerka prison. He wrote this. He said this Min HaMeitzar. And I'm going to save you the whole Londis. I don't want to give you a philosophy, but I want to share this word. Because this is where I am right now. I'm learning these by Maimorim, and that's how it is. Ma'ahu Oimer. Everybody says what's going on by them. So I happen to be in this Maimer at the moment, so I'm going to share it with you. The Chassidus says that Oimek Roim and Oimek Tachas, the deepest on high and the deepest below are connected. In other words, when a person is in a very low situation, it brings out a very, very deep place in the neshama, and it touches and it reaches and it calls and it awakens a place which is very, very high. And it's equal and opposite. The deeper the cry, the higher you reach, you understand? Like you have in Hayom Yom, you have a moed kavod. An unbelievable, it's very important word. The Rebbe Maharash said, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe said, a krechts von a Yidden is tshuva law. Do you understand Yiddish? A krechts von a Yidden. When a Jew cries out, it's the highest tshuva that could be. Even if he's crying out for a physical problem. He chas v'sholem is lacking in health. He's chas v'sholem lacking in parnasa. He's chas v'sholem lacking in sholem bayis. He's chas v'sholem lacking in nachas from kinder. And chas v'sholem he's lacking. What's the biggest thing a person could lack? The biggest lack a person can have, he has no brains. Yeah, but the problem with a person who has no brains is he's not smart enough to know that he's lacking something, so he doesn't cry out. But it says in the Hayyim Yoim, when a Yid cries out, even if he's crying about a davar gashmi, a physical thing, it's the highest tshuva. Now if I'm crying because someone is not healthy, how is that tshuva? And the only answer is because the cry comes from a deep place inside. What you're crying about could be this or this or this. But from where you cry is always the same. And when you cry about something which causes a lot of pain, you cry from a very deep place. And this is called min hameitza karosiko. And when you cry from a very, very deep place, ononi b'merchav, the answer comes from Hashem, milmayla lamata, from heaven to earth, from top down, from a place which was as deep on the other end. That's the power of tshuva. That's the power of a cry. That when a Yid cries, Eibishter responds, because the pain it comes from a deep place in the person, and it touches Kvayachal Eibishter on a very high level. It says in Pasuk, and it's brought in Chasidus. We say it's Shabbos in davening, but we don't say the whole pasuk, so nobody realizes the Toichan Advorim. We say on Shabbos, Sheikhin ad morim v'kadosh mei, Sheikhin ad morim right v'kadosh. What's the hemshech of that pasuk? It's not in the Siddur. Ve'ezdaka u'shval ruach eshkein. Hashem is very far removed from the world. Hashem is very far removed from the world. Where can you find HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Where can you find God? By a daka or shval ruach. Daka means a person who's chas v'sholem broken. Shval ruach means a person who has a low spirit, who's low spiritually. His feeling of himself is low. That's where you can find HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because the min hameitza, when a Yid cries out from a place of pain, it touches Hashem in a very deep place. So the previous Rebbe is sitting in jail, and he says, and he doesn't finish the pasuk. He doesn't say in the Maimer, because right now he doesn't have the Anoni. When he wrote and said that Maimer, he was sitting in Shpalerkia prison, he literally did not know. Mi b'chayim and mi b'moves. He didn't know if he's going to live. So Maimer begins, and he translates that karasi means tefillah. When a Yid calls out, he's calling out in prayer. But in the Maimer he explains, it's a whole beautiful Maimer based on Bitchwa de Shema Deyad, I don't want to go into the lumdus, but the point he makes is two things. The first thing he says is that when you cry from a very deep place, the Eibishter answers you from a place which is reciprocally deep. In other words, the depth of a person down here touches the depth of a lakus on the other end. The lower it is in the person, the higher it is in the lakus. But then he says something else, and this is very, very important. That when the Eibishter gives back, when the Eibishter responds to the cry of a Yid, it's not enough that the Eibishter gives back a reciprocal response to the cry. Why? Because it's possible that Hashem should give you something in return for your cry or in response to your cry, but it should go to the wrong place. It should go to the wrong place. There's a philosophical truth. There's a philosophical truth, which is actually quite logical if you think about it, that says infinity is random. What that means, infinity is random? Bli gavul doesn't have a direction. It can't. It's called in Chassidus kachashecha ko'ira. Infinity is infinity. Something that has no limits, doesn't have any judgment, has no right and wrong. Bli gavul is makif. When something is infinite, it can go any place, even to places which are not good. So this Maimer says it's not enough that the Eibishter responds. It's not enough that the Eibishter responds and it gives you an infinity. but it has to go to the right place. And that's how he explains the letters Yudke. When you call out from the depths to the Eibishter, you call out in a kind of way that not only he should respond, but that his response, his oirus should go l'makam anochim. It should go to the correct place, and that's how this Maimed is explained. That's how the Maimed is understood. The Rebbe explains it in his Maimorim, that when the Eibishter gives a person a reciprocal response to a deep cry, so what Hashem gives, the God Almighty gives, is infinite. It's a lot. And it has to be channeled. It has to go into the right place. And it's part of the person's responsibility. You daven to the Eibishter, you ask the Eibishter for bracha v'atzlacha, and the Eibishter responds, the Eibishter gives brachas. It's on us to make sure that that bracha goes to the right place, because we could waste it. We could squander it. We could use it for who knows what. We could use it in an inefficient way, in a destructive way, in an appropriate way. So this is a very, very important. This is what this Maimon talks about. The previous Rebbe is sitting in jail, and he's saying, I need from God two things. Number one, I want him to get me out of here. And number two, I want him to get me out of here the way I want to go out of here. That I should go out of here and be able to do what I did until now. That the bracha of the Eibishter should go l'makam anochim, that the blessing the Almighty gives should be in a way that it goes to the right place. This is now you can wake up. The boring part is finished. The chazara of the Maimed is over. And the Rebbe explains it based on the pasuk. Bitchu b'dishem adei ad ki b'koh havai etzorei lomim. In this pasuk, it also says ki b'koh havai etzorei lomim. The point is this. Rabbi say, ladies and gentlemen, we are the Chassidim of Farbrengen, and we're Chassidim. We are Chassidim, and we have the unbelievable schos to be Mekusha to the Rabbi Nesienu, to the Rebbe Dinasi Ador, to our Rebbe, and the Rebbe gives and gives and gives and gives and gives. So I can tell you from personal experience, I have become a shameless man when I was younger. When I wanted to go to the oil, Emmanuel, I had to make a chonis for 4 weeks. I'm going to the oil. So how often did I get to the Rebbe? A few times a year. And then I needed the Rebbe's help. So I started going to the oil once a week. And I lost all shame. I come to the Rebbe with my list of, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And I could imagine the Rebbe thinking, Shman saying it. And what do I need? You know, like the Alter Rebbe told one of his Chassidim, Du sagst aus, of was du darfst. Of was darf man dir, sagst du Gott. You tell him what you want, what you need it for. Anyway, but you get brachas, you get hatzlachas. The Rebbe gives all kinds of good things. It's not enough that the Rebbe gives and we receive. It's on us to make sure that what the Rebbe gives us isn't wasted. That the brachas and hatzlachas that the Rebbe gives us are utilized healthy and properly and in a sustainable way. You know what that means, in a sustainable way? Fire, if it's used incorrectly, destroys. It burns. Fire, if it's used correctly, warms and uplifts and it sustains. So there's also the fire of the neshama. There's the passion of the neshama, of the soul. And a lot of us have a lot of fire, but we burn out the engine. You know what I'm saying? We have these moments, we get all very excited. The previous Rebbe used to say about American Jews. I don't know if you ever heard of such a thing called American Jews. Yeah. He say, American Jews are, he said in Yiddish, sie heizen sich schnell an und sie killen sich also schnell ab. You understand Yiddish? They get aroused very quickly, they get excited very fast, but they cool off just as quickly. It's like burning a piece of paper. The fire has to be sustained. One of the lessons of this Maimed is that when the Eibishter gives bracha, it has to be sustained. A lot of us in our lives have nisyonis, have difficulties. And a lot of us in our lives are zoiche to see the redemption, the pada b'shalom, the healing of the nisyonis that we have in our life. And it excites us. It makes us think about the Eibishter. It makes us think about the Rebbe. It makes us think about ourselves. It makes us think about the idea that we have to be more precise in our learning Torah, in our shiurim, and davening with a minyan, and going to shul, and in every aspect of Yiddishkeit, it's very, very important that it shouldn't be easy come, easy go. It shouldn't be that you get very, very excited, and then a week later you're sleeping. This is the Menameitza Karosi call, not the Merchav call, that the brachas that Hashem gives us. And if we look carefully, all of us see moiden de brachas v'atzlachas from the Rebbe. The Rebbe git on a shein on a break. The Rebbe gives and gives and gives and gives. You go to the oil. Maybe it doesn't happen the way you want, or the way you think, or the way you planned, but there's moiden de galil kus. I can tell you some personal experience. I don't want to tell you too many details, but trust me, it works. It works. It works. It works. But we have to keep the fire burning. It's on us that the awakenings that we get because of our connection to the Rebbe should not last 5 minutes. Because it's a waste. It's a shut. It's not being used efficiently. And that's the Anonim Merchav Kah, also Yud K, that the brachas the Eibusha gives us should come into proper keilim. So this is a Chassidish and Farbrengen. So first of all, l'chaim with the bracha, that everybody has needs. All of us have needs. The only ones who don't have needs are the people who don't realize that they have needs. Right? We all have needs. You know the story. The Rebbe Maharash, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, his name was Harav Shmuel. He used to say, I have no favorites. Everybody to me is equal. So the Rebbe, how could you say that? The poor person comes into your room, he stays 1 minute. The rich man comes into your room and he stays 10 minutes. That's not equal time. The rich man gets 10 minutes and the poor man gets 1 minute. He says, what don't you understand? The poor man comes into me and says, how's life? He says, terrible. What's going on? I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. In 1 minute I fix it. The rich man comes into me and says, Master, everything is great. Mamish, health, and panasa. After 10 minutes, he says, Rebbe, I got this problem, this problem. They all get the same amount of time. It just takes a little longer to get to the truth. But otherwise, they give everybody equal time. Yedereina, we all have tzrachim. And the Baal Shem Tov said, was a Chassidish Farbrengen can uftan shel nechol, Sarat shesol nicht uftan, but a Chassidish Farbrengen can achieve, Malach Mechol cannot achieve because of the Avas Yisrael. Because we're sitting together. So l'chaim lebracha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yemali mishalich kol echad va'achas l'teva v'lebracha. B'teva nir v'nigle. In gesund, und in Parnasse, und in Shalom Bayis, und in Nachas, und in Seichel. Asach Seichel, afil abin so Seichel. Wie viel Seichel man hat, wir wissen, aber man hat wenig Seichel. Is a raya, man hat Seichel. L'chaim lebracha, l'chaim. You know the Beinani, Chazan, the Beinani. Oh, yo. Amen.